Your boy Dame D, and I'm back with another one. I want to talk about this Ryan Hinton situation. Um, the prosecutor came back today with the shooting was justified. So I'm going to wait for a few people to tap in and join in, and then we're going to talk about the topic at hand. So yeah, so just give me a second. I'm gonna wait for a few people to jump in. I'm waiting on my guest to come in, and we're gonna talk about this situation. Me personally, it's fucked up. And I'll add my opinion and thoughts in a second. Yep, let me know if you guys can hear me. I'm gonna wait for a few of you guys to jump in, come on in, and then we're gonna go in and talk about it. The comment section is open, so you guys can interact with me through the comment section. I definitely want to talk about this topic. I'm probably going to do a live panel maybe tomorrow about this. Because this definitely needs to be talked about. This is smack in the face. The day before Juneteenth. You know what I mean? So let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me know if everything is clear. I'm going to do my audio check. So let me know. Okay, I can be heard. So yeah, like I said, I want a few people to jump in, chime in before I start talking about the situation. I sent out a few invites. I'm waiting on some people to come in. I wish some of my West Coast people, if you watching, leave, let me know. If you watching BJ3, let me know. I definitely want to talk about it. I want a few people to come in before we start talking about um, this horrible decision that the prosecutors made. So, like I said, I'm gonna start talking about it in a second. I just want a few more people to jump in before I start talking about this horrible decision that the prosecutor made about this decision. You know what I mean? Because at the time, and still, they still have not showed us a gun in that man's hand on the ground or when he was running. You know what I mean? So it was a bunch of bullshit, and just let us know how the justice system does not work for black people in situations like that. It was deliberately. And it was also known that he was a plainclothes officers. And they're always aggressive when they jump out. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna go ahead and just start it up. It's a few people in here talking. I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure that you share. Make sure that you hit that like button. But I definitely want you guys to comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about your decision. So earlier today, I believe, or I just got in from work not too long ago, and I just this came through my feed. I didn't even know it until a second ago. But yeah, there's not going to be any justice for Ryan Hinton. You know what I mean? The prosecutor came back with their decision, and they said it was a justified shooting. And like I said, they still have not showed us a gun that was through the pictures in the video. I still have not seen a gun in that man's hand at all. And there was one person only who decided if this was justified. It wasn't a grand jury, a group of people to come in to decide. You know, um, this officer's fate. It's still the police judging each other, during situations like that. So it'll never be a justified, situation. In situations like that, the police are always going to judge. What I'm yapping about is what I'm talking about, motherfucker. You see the comment, Tamar Jabo. You see what it is, But anyway, you got motherfucker. Like I said, they still have not showed a gun in that man's hand. The prosecutor came back with it was a justified shooting. So like I said, that just let black people know in situations like that, they're always going to come back, with a bullshitting ass motherfucking verdict like that. So there needs to be other shit that needs to be going on. They'll get him in a civil suit. But other than that, that's still some bullshit. So I want a few people to come on in and talk about it. Tamar Jabbo, what you're yapping about, the topic, motherfucker. Talk about it. Come on in. You want to talk about it? Come on in, motherfucker. Don't sit up. You see what the conversation is about. So you can go on with that bullshit. But like I said, you got ignorant motherfuckers like this motherfucker, like Tamar Jabbo, coming in the comment section talking shit, but just let black people know how motherfuckers like you are, you know, and that prosecutor who made that horrible decision, but they'll get him in a civil suit, but there needs to be other ways of getting that motherfucker, but he's free, he's out there, his name was released, you know what I mean? So, um, you know, okay, so I see a few more comments. The cool guy, Tamar Jabba, why you disrespecting? Right, exactly. You know what I mean? Get at that motherfucker. See, these are motherfuckers that need to be get at. Like motherfuckers named Tamar Jabbo, coming in talking shit. We're trying to have a good, decent conversation about the topic at hand. You want to come in here and talk shit, but like I said, the prosecutor came back and, it was a justified shooting, but like I said, there still was no showing of a gun in his hand when he was running. No showing of him showing a gun pointing at the police officer, meaning that the police officer had nothing to fear for his life. This was a motherfucking undercover police officer they always jump out aggressive. They always jump out ready to shoot and kill, especially when it's a black man. So that just let you know this set a precedent for what's getting ready to go on this year. You know what I mean? And you understand why motherfucking Ryan Hinton Jr. went and did what the fuck he did. Tamar Jabbo, in situations like that. So it's all good. It is what it is. You know, um, I'm waiting on my guest to come in a second. T-Man said, no politics, please. Yeah, we're gonna leave the politics out. We're just keeping it real. Not once did they show a gun in this man's hand. You got the right to get out a motherfucking car and run. Even if he had a gun in his hand, he could have had an in Ohio, it's an open carry. You know what I mean? So he had the right to have a motherfucking gun. You know what I mean? So the whole thing is, um, was this officer justified at shooting and killing him? And they're saying that he was when it clearly shows that he wasn't. And that one point in the videos that they showed, you saw him pointing the gun at the police, meaning that the police would have any reason to fear for his life. He had no reason to fear for his life. Those are words that they use and that they say. So black men, beware of this shit. You know what I mean? Why? And we know this. Why would any motherfucker have a gun and point at the motherfucking police unless you ready to die? You know what I mean? So that's some bullshit. So you just gotta watch out. We hip to these the tricks and the games that they play. So I'm gonna go to the comment section. You still got this Tamar Jabbo in there, but T-Man, you got you just talked about the president. I ain't saying shit about the president. You know what? You're gonna get blocked. So did we have one or not? Yeah, and that's some bullshit, right? A day before Juneteenth, but it is what it is, he's released, he's out there, he'll be found, he'll be dealt with, in another way. They're definitely gonna have a civil lawsuit against him. But like I said, I'm waiting on my guest to come in and we'll finish it. Definitely want to have a good conversation, with somebody with a law background. But yeah, it's just some bullshit. Like I said, it's just going to set a precedent for what's getting ready to happen. Um, you know, um, for years to come. Unless it's going to be a major change in the way our police are policing the citizens. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, at the end of the day, you have the right to jump out and run from the police. Their job is to catch you, and their job is not to shoot you in the motherfucking back. This I fear for my motherfucking life is nothing but an excuse for them to be able to go out and do what they've been doing. So we, as black folks, we have to recognize that. You know what I mean? And then at the end of the day, they're always judging and prosecuting themselves, so they'll never find themselves guilty of anything. You know what I mean? So that needs to be changed. It should have went to a grand jury, just like the defense lawyers for Ryan Hinton talked about in the press conference. There should have been multiple people judging this situation versus one motherfucker judging that. You know what I mean? No, it ain't love, because you sitting up talking shit, Tamar Jabbo. But you motherfuckers, if that's your real name, you out there now. What's my opinion on Jewish supremacy? It is what it is. I mean, they're running a lot of shit. They're running the food industry, the jewelry industry, the court system, TV. So pretty much, they're running what we're on now. So they control everything. So I don't really like to get off and talk about stuff like that. When especially when I'm talking about stuff like that. But yeah, it is what it is about that. But yeah, back to topic at hand. But yeah, it just should let people know how the police will judge themselves in situations like that. Because clearly this man was shot in the motherfucking back running away from the police. So you're telling me that you can't even run away. Their job is to catch you. You know what I mean? Not to shoot you in the motherfucking back. You know what I mean? And that's all I'm trying to say, and that's all the family wanted was justice. That was a clear cut homicide. Man was shot in the back. But what goes around comes around. And this and first and foremost, this police officer, you know, um, he's already been under investigation for uh, police brutality. He has a few things up under his belt. So it's all going to come to the light. It'll all come out. He did what he did. He can't hide from what'll be coming his way. You know what I mean? He's hiding behind the law. But he can't hide from what he did. Because what he did was kill. And I'm gonna keep it real, an innocent man, that was running away, because he did nothing at that time illegal but run away, and you have the right to try to run away. Their job is just try to catch you. But yeah, like I said, I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification so you can be notified about the latest content that I put out. It's kind of late, I'm normally not going this late, but I just couldn't hold it and I want to talk about this situation. So like I said, there's a few people that's been commenting, but I just want to get some real comments about this situation. What do you guys? So tell me what you think, Tamar Jabbo. Do you think that it was a justified? Do you think that a man running away should be shot in his motherfucking back? So give me that. Give me your opinion on that. Do you think a motherfucker running away, should be shot in his back? I don't give a fuck if he had a motherfucking AR-15. Long as he was running away, the officer should have not threatened, felt for his life, I should say. And these the words that they need to take out of their motherfucking vocabulary. You know what I mean? Because these are the words that has been getting them off for murder. I fear for my life. Get the fuck out of here. Of course not. So what are you talking about then? So yeah, so if you don't think a motherfucker deserves to be shot shot in the back, so why would you come in the comments talking shit in the beginning? You know what I mean? This was a clear cut, case that like I said, they still not haven't even showed, this man having a gun in his hand, having a gun at the police pointing at him. You know what I mean? That's crazy. They're giving us what they want us to see. They did not show a firearm in his man hand at all. I don't even believe he had a firearm, because you can't show it. We don't see it. The still pictures that they show, you don't see anything in his hand. So that's all I'm trying to say. You a stupid motherfucker and you deserve to be shot if you got a motherfucking gun in your hand and then you you turn around and you pointed at the police officer, you deserve to be shot. But that didn't happen. If they would have showed that, if they showed him turning around with that motherfucker gun in his hand, a lot of black folks, and even white folks, because you have a lot of white people out here, that's being honest and real. He did not, no one deserved to be shot in the back. That cop did not fear for his life. And we know, that he was not fearing for his life. That was just a word and a reason to be able to take that man's life. And he'll get what he deserves. You get away with shit like that. For now. But it always come back around. So remember that, Tamar Jabbo, it always comes back around. So it looks good. To people who want to see other people shot and killed like that. You know what I mean? Even if he was a criminal, even if he, like I said, if he had a motherfucking rocket in his hand and he jumped out the car and was motherfucking running away from the police, how could you fear from your life? You know what I mean? So these are just words that they're saying to be able to get away. That motherfucker didn't fear for his life. I know it. Everybody who watched the video should know it. Even the prosecutors know it. The Cincinnati Police Department know it. It should be a smack in the face to black police officers. And I wish I invited a few people to come in, but if you're an officer out there and you're watching that and you're a black officer, give me your opinion on that. It should be a smack in your face. You know what I mean? Because that could have been your brother, your cousin, or one of your relatives that was just running away. I understand right is right, wrong is wrong. They shouldn't have been in that situation. They were caught in a bad situation. They apparently, supposedly was in the car asleep. The police pulled up, and they wasn't even the police. This was undercover police. It wasn't even they were plainclothes officers. You know what I mean? So in the beginning, they probably didn't know who the fuck that was, until they actually saw the other officers and they jumped out and would start running. They were chasing them. So how can you fear for your life when you chasing some motherfucking body? If you fear for your life, you getting the fuck up out of there. You're not even trying to chase them. You know what I mean? So that should be the last time that we allow that shit to go on. You know what I mean? That's something that we as a group, not just black folks, white folks needs to get in on that too. That this system has to be changed. You know what I mean? Because I can't wait. I'm not going to even say that. No one deserves to die, but it's going to be a situation. It's always brought to the light. You know what I mean? Y'all might think y'all won in a situation like that, but it's going to be another situation that's going to happen where officers are going to shoot a white man in the back from running away, and it's going to be the same situation. And I want to see the outcome of that because normally those are how that's how when things are not done right, things like that happen to bring light to situations like this. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's going to happen. And that's what probably needs to happen. Okay, Tamar Jabbo said, "Look, kids checking out early, raise your kids better." I agree. You do have to raise your kids better, but it still goes back to what I was saying. Show me where the officer feared for his life. See, you a motherfucker that makes excuses. And I'm gonna keep it real. And I understand what you said. What you said was the number one key. What if he was raised right and he just was running away trying to get away? You know what I mean? So that's not an excuse. You know, um, you don't deserve to die from running away. He should have been caught and he should have went to jail and been prosecuted. That's how shit should goes. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, um, when police officers are dealt with people that look like them, they have all the reason in the world to show sympathy, empathy, and don't even pull out firearms. I just did a story on a sheriff deputy who was shot and killed by another white man. You know what I mean? That was sitting on his porch, and he told him, turn your ass away, go home, or you won't live to see another day. This officer still gave this man every chance to shoot and kill him. And that's exactly what happened. You know what I mean? So situations like that happen all the time, especially when it's white on white. But when it's white on black, when it's white officers dealing with African American men, normally the outcome is that the officers fear for their life, and normally the black man is normally always shot and killed. And I can listen, and I'll be the first to say, if a motherfucker got a gun in his hand and he pull it out, and he pointed at an officer, that officer got a right to blow his motherfucking ass away. You know what I mean? And that's not what I'm arguing. I have friends that's police officers. I have family members that's sheriff's deputies. You see what I'm saying? We all have family and friends that's officers. Even when and I'm gonna be honest, even when Ryan Hinton Jr. ran over that officer, originally I said, that didn't deserve to happen. That man should have been able to go home to his family. He was just out there doing his job. And I still stand behind that. At the end of the day, I understood what the father did. He felt for his son. And you know what? He actually probably knew that this shit was going to happen. And that's probably going to set a precedent. And too bad, that you know that it couldn't have been no right justice, because now it's probably going to set a precedent for when shit like this happen. Motherfuckers are probably going to start to do shit like that. You know what I mean? White people and black people, we just got to keep it real with ourselves. You know what I mean? We know these motherfuckers. It's like target season. It seems like when they're out there on the job and they're hunting. It's almost like they out there hunting. Versus actually trying to actually do their job some of the times. And I'm gonna keep it real. You have some great officers that's white. That I even encountered. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that they're all bad, but the ones that are good, that's not speaking up about this shit, they makes them all look bad. I'm just gonna be honest. That shit burnt me up when I heard that shit. I'm like, cause yeah, like I said, if that man jumped out the car and he had a gun in his hand and he pointed at the officer, yes, the officer should have had the right to shoot that motherfucker because he pointed a gun at him. Any stupid motherfucker that pull out a gun and point it towards a police officer, deserves to be shot and killed. You know what I mean? But that didn't happen. And that's what I'm upset about. You know, um, and this shit needs to stop. Only how it's going to stop is when, you know, motherfuckers just go after that motherfucker. I'm just gonna keep it real. They got his name released, and that's crazy, that shit like that got like I said, they're gonna go after him in a civil suit, you know, um, but at the end of the day, a man lost his life. Goofy eye. What do you mean by that, South Reaper? See, and these is the motherfuckers that I hate. They come in here and make, I'm just trying to have a real conversation. Show me where this man deserved to die at. You jumping out of a car, like I said, if this motherfucker had a rocket in his hand, and he was running away from the officer, he shouldn't have feared for his life. But what do you mean, South Reaper, goofy eye? You know what I mean? Because when you come in, you're not fucking with me. You fucking with the family of Ryan Hinton. Because at the end of the day, I'm just reporting and doing the story. About a young man who was shot and murdered and killed. You have goofy motherfuckers like you that come in and make stupid comments. When we're trying to have a serious discussion. About a young man who lost his life. I hope that motherfucker come back in and hunt you. because at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not trying to defend a guilty motherfucker, or a person who deserved to be shot. He didn't deserve to be shot. That could have been my son. You know what I mean? Kids make mistakes. He made a mistake. And that's all I'm trying to say. This young man made a mistake. He was just trying to get away. He wasn't trying to harm or do anything to this officer. And this is, and all I'm trying to say is this stuff needs to stop. We all have kids. We've all been kids. We've all made crazy. Listen, you can be raised by God Himself. You know what I mean? And still make mistakes. A lot of people want to say, we had somebody that came in and made a comment about, if you raise your, and I understand that, raise your kids right. And typically or normally situations like this won't happen. And I agree 100%. Excuse me. I need to get something to drink. My mouth is a little dry. But yeah, normally situations like that won't happen, but my only thing is I honestly thought that they would have had found this officer guilty. Because not once, not at all did they show us a firearm, him brandishing a firearm, and even showing it, brandishing it at the officer for him to say that he feared for his life. So I need for you guys to give me your opinion. Let me know, what was it, a justified shooting for the officer? It's your boy Dame D. And I'm out. I don't really have anything else to add to this. I just want to come in, and talk about this for a second. If you're not subscribed to the channel, um, hit that subscribe button for me now. I just want to come in for a second and talk about, the horrible decision that the prosecutor made, that the Cincinnati prosecutors made, a couple of days before Juneteenth, on their decision. Even if it wasn't Juneteenth, it still was a smack in the face for the family of Ryan Hinton. You know what I mean? Because clearly, this young man made a mistake and he was just trying to get away, and that's it. But what goes, and with this officer, this same officer that shot and killed this man, like I said, he has a lengthy jacket, and what I mean by that is he has multiple things on his record as far as like police brutality and other things that should have been brought to the light, what I mean, that wasn't, but at the end of the day, he may think he have gotten away with this, but but God sees everything, and I'm just going to keep it real. He'll get what he deserved in the end. If he don't get it now, he'll get it in the end. He'll be judged, because clearly, um, if there is a God, God knows all, and God knows his intention. God knows his heart. And I'll just leave it at that. He'll definitely be judged by God. Because only God really knows his. I mean, we saw his true intentions. We saw what happened. You know what I mean? But on a brighter note, like I said, at the end of the day, he'll be judged by God, and God knew his true intentions. So I'm not going to hold you guys up. I just want to come on. I really want to do, and I probably will do a panel discussion tomorrow, on this topic. Meaning this is, this was a horrible decision. You have a lot of people that will want to discuss this topic and talk about this. So yeah, I'm just getting home from work, and this was the first thing that I saw. So I haven't even took my work clothes off yet and unwind. I just wanted to. It ate me up so bad that I'm like, fuck it. I just got to come and talk about it for a second. I just wanted to see who was all up and who wanted to talk about it. So the comment section will always be open. You guys leave your comments. Let me know how you doing, Sharice Brewster. Sharice, give me your opinion. Do you think that the officer was justified in shooting the young man Ryan Hinton? You know what I mean? Because like I said, not once did we see on the still photos or even a video that they showed this man brandishing a firearm and even pointing at the police. You know, so I'm not gonna hold you up. You know, like I said, the comment section will always be available for you guys to go back and comment, you know, and let me know what you think about this situation. Was it justified? Um, was this officer right? You know, and this is what the prosecutor said. You know, was he right? You know, or was he wrong in your eyes? You know, so it's been another one. It's your boy Dame D, and I am out. Peace.